Chapter 9. Conflict and Negotiation in the Workplace. Learning Objective 11.1. Define conflict and debate the positive and negative consequences of conflict in the workplace. 11.2. Create a diagram of the conflict process model and identify 6 structural sources of conflict in organizations. 11.3. Distinguish task from relationship conflict and describe the 3 conflict frames and their consequences. 11.4. Outline the 5 strategic approaches to conflict handling and discuss the circumstances in which each would be most appropriate. 11.5. Outline the strategies that skilled negotiators use to claim value and create value in negotiations. 11.6. Compare and contrast the 3 types of third-party dispute resolution. 11.7. Apply the 7 approaches that organizations can take to reduce dysfunctional conflict. Conflict and negotiations at Qantas. Industrial actions, fleet grounding and urgent government intervention led Qantas to negotiate and settle with employees. But has Qantas won the battle, only to lose the war? Conflict defined. The process in which one party perceives that its interests are being opposed or negatively affected by another party. Is conflict good or bad? Pre-1970s view. Historically, experts viewed conflict as dysfunctional, undermined relations, wasted human energy, more job dissatisfaction, turnover, stress, less productivity, information sharing. 1970s to 1990s, belief in an optimal level of conflict. Some level of conflict is good because it energizes debate, re-examines assumptions, improves responsiveness to external environment, increases team cohesion. Conflict process. The diagram below shows the process of conflict. Task versus relationship conflict. Task conflict. Conflict due to disagreements about how a task should be accomplished. Relationship conflict. Conflict due to differences in personal values, individual styles, personality. Team satisfaction and performance decrease as either task or relationship conflict increases. Difficulty in separating task and relationship conflict. Interests versus rights-based frame. First, interests-based frame. Focuses on issue, hard on the problem, soft on the person. Resolves differences through problem-solving discussion. Second, rights-based and power-based frames. Focuses on personal rights or relative power. Low consideration for other party. Resolves differences through threats to protect rights. Tends to generate relationship conflict and conflict escalation. Structural sources of conflict. Incompatible goals. One party's goals perceived to interfere with others' goals. Differentiation. Different values or beliefs. Explains cross-cultural and generational conflict. Interdependence. Conflict increases with interdependence. Parties more likely to interfere with each other. Structural sources of conflict continued. Scarce resources. Motivates competition for the resource. Ambiguous rules. Create uncertainty, threaten goals. Without rules, people rely on politics. Communication problems. Increase stereotyping. Reduce motivation to communicate. Escalate conflict when arrogant. Individual differences in conflict. Emotional intelligence. Regulates emotions better, reducing hostile responses. View others' hostility as information, not personal attack. Personal goals and priorities. influence best conflict handling style. Conflict orientation, win-win orientation, belief that parties will find a mutually beneficial solution. Win-lose orientation, belief that one party's gain is the other's loss, i.e. fixed pie. 5 conflict handling styles: compromising, forcing, problem-solving, avoiding, yielding, as shown as below diagram. Conflict handling contingencies. First, problem solving. Best when interests are not perfectly opposing. Parties have trust or openness. Issues are complex. Problem: other party takes advantage of information. Second, forcing. Best when you have a deep conviction about your position. Quick resolution required. Other party would take advantage of cooperation. Problems: relationship conflict, long-term relations. Conflict handling contingencies continued. Third, avoiding. Best when conflict is emotionally charged. Relationship conflict. Conflict resolution cost is higher than benefits. Problems: doesn't resolve conflict, frustration. Fourth, yielding. Best when other party has much more power. Issue is much less important to you than other party. Value or logic of your position is imperfect. Problem: increases others' expectations. Imperfect solution. Conflict handling contingencies continued. Fifth, compromising. Best when parties have equal power. Quick solution is required. Parties lack trust or openness. Problem: suboptimal solution where mutual gains are possible. Next, resolving conflict through negotiation. Negotiation. Conflicting parties attempt to resolve their divergent goals by redefining the terms of their interdependence. Need to consider desired outcomes, tactics, deal design and the scope of the negotiation. Negotiating fundamentals. Setting limits. Target point. Resistance point. Assessing power. Consider alternative skills. Creating and claiming value. The goal of value creation is to ensure that both negotiators obtain the best possible outcomes, which is managing the deal, managing information, managing the process, beyond the deal. Managing the deal, information, skills, concessions, strategies, multi-issue proposals, conceding on low-value items while getting concessions on high-value items. Managing information, small number of strong arguments, understand the other negotiator's needs, investigative approach to negotiations. Managing the process tactics, delaying or stalling the negotiation, setting deadlines, risk, negotiation turning into an escalating cycle of attack and counterattack. Ignore personal attacks and refocus on the substantive problem. Beyond the deal. Considering other aspects in addition to best possible deal. Implementation. Social capital. Relationship building. Reputation. Ethical negotiation. Negotiating ethically. Avoid misrepresentation, false promises, attacking an opponent's network, inappropriate information gathering, strategic misrepresentation of positive or negative emotions. Culture and conflict, individualism or collectivism, focus on harmony versus personal goals, power distance. High power distance people signal status in conflicts. High or low context style. Low context people communicate more directly, using logical arguments. Gender and conflicts. During conflict, women, compared to men, tend to Focus more on relationship consequences. Set lower targets. Use fewer alternatives to improve their outcomes. See the process as necessarily competitive. Women have better outcomes in conflict when parties approach the disagreement collaboratively. Resolving conflict through third-party intervention. The diagram showing the level of decision control. Choosing the best third-party strategy. Managers prefer inquisitional strategy, but this is not usually the best approach. Mediation potentially offers the highest satisfaction with process and outcomes. Use arbitration when mediation fails. Organizational approaches to conflict resolution. Emphasizing superordinate goals. Emphasize common objective rather than conflicting sub-goals. Reduce goal incompatibility and differentiation. Reducing values differences. Remove sources of different values and beliefs. Example given: move employees around to different jobs. Organizational approaches to conflict resolution. Improving communication or understanding. Employees understand and appreciate each other's views through communication. Relates to contact hypothesis. Warning: apply communication or understanding after reducing differentiation. Reducing interdependence. Divide shared resources. Combine tasks. Use buffers. Organizational approaches to conflict resolution. Increasing resources. Duplicate resources. Clarifying rules and procedures. Clarify resource distribution. Change interdependence. Establishing a positive climate. Norms that encourage openness. Norms that discourage negative emotions and encourage positive diffusion tactics. Example: humor. Alternative dispute resolution. Summary: moderate conflict can be effective. The conflict process model begins with the 5 structural sources of conflict. The current perspective on conflict involves distinguishing task from relationship conflict. There are several conflict handling styles: problem solving, forcing, avoiding, yielding and compromising. People who use problem solving have a win-win orientation. Effective negotiators need to engage in both collaboration and competition in order to obtain outcomes.